I was honest in terms of what I want, and of course I did not say it rudely, I say it politely, but of course to normal Malaysian custom, it may not be acceptable, but as a result of it, I was given the trust. In the interview itself, they offered me the job, and I became a credit officer in Bank Islam Labuan Limited. And the first day I got in, they gave me this $100 million deal, Islamic Development Bank investment in Malaysia. So you imagine a fresh graduate, do not know a single thing about finance, a law graduate, but do not have a CLP or bar qualification or whatever you want to call it, never worked anywhere before, given $100 million portfolio. I thought people were talking French because there's not a single term during the first few meetings that I attended that I understood. So they actually threw this young punk that really showed off during the interview into the deep end of the pool and see whether or not he can swim or sink. So that was my experience. The first day as a banker, I was given this huge task to see whether or not I am as good as I thought I was. Right? And of course, Alhamdulillah, and luckily, I managed to pull through that transaction, and that was the beginning of bigger and greater deals for me at Bank Islam Labuan Limited. My experience there essentially involved doing transactions in 30 different countries, allowing me to have the experience of dealing with different regulatory framework, dealing with different legal issues in regards to transactional management, and because the bank that I joined was also a newly set up bank, I had the opportunity and the ability to learn how to build a bank from scratch. Right? In the third month I was in the bank, I was asked by my CEO to write a business plan for the bank, of course with supervision. But the opportunity that I had, I maximized as much as possible to develop myself in regards to how banking works, in regards to how a bank should be structured, in regards to how regulators look at banks and how regulators look at the people within the bank. Right? And one of my biggest objective and agenda in Islamic finance was the establishment of the Islamic capital market globally. We had an Islamic capital market in Malaysia. It was a good one. It was steadily growing, but there was a vacuum in the international finance market where there is not a single Islamic bonds. So together with my boss at that time, Shamsun, we decided to make it as our personal agenda. It was not the agenda of the bank. The bank was very much focused in syndicated finance, very focused on basically lending business. Right? They just want to do bilateral. Right? They're not looking at doing bonds. So we made it as a personal agenda, with, of course, the blessing of our CEO, to develop the global Islamic bond market from scratch. So the idea behind that is, without an Islamic bond market going global, the interest in Islamic finance will still be skewed domestically. You need to have something exciting out there in the global market for people to take notice, and so that people will also be interested to come and do the business, so that at the end of the day you can have cross-border transaction. You can have counterparts from other parts of the world that is doing Islamic finance. And so we fought hard to convince Bank Islam Labuan Limited and Bank Islam Malaysia Berhad to allow us to do this. So we structured the first sukuk al-ijarah in the world. We gave that structure to HSBC. They have to sign a non-compete or exclusive agreement with us for 2 years. They cannot do this business, they cannot do this transaction or this structure within that 2-year period that we are developing the structure. We managed to convince one of the largest conglomerate in the country, Kumpulan Gatri Berhad, to do it. We went to the government of Malaysia. Government of Malaysia said no. We went to Petronas. Petronas said no. Then we went to Gatri. Just so happened that Gatri at that time just acquired a huge pile of land in Indonesia, and they needed fund. And Tan Sri Khalid, the current MB of Selangor, who was the CEO of Gatri at that time, agreed. Let's do it. So we got our guinea pig. So with Gatri, we went out, and unfortunately, when we went out with that structure, nobody knows about the structure. And funnily enough, nobody knows about Bank Islam Malaysia Berhad or Bank Islam Labuan Limited as an arranger of bonds. What more, global bonds. Right. So everyone effectively wanted us to fail. In fact, our competitors were telling Gatri, it's alright, Bank Islam, when they fail, will step in and do it for you. Okay. Of course, because this is effectively like a pet project, a personal agenda, we work hard to governize the whole management of Bank Islam, and we got them to go and see the senior management of our competitors and effectively threaten them. If you don't come in, we'll tell your secret. Personal secret. This is business. So at the end of the day, all the banks then come in and supported the deal, and the first sukuk deal, global sukuk deal in the world was done. Just to backtrack a bit in terms of how I got into CIMB, when Bank Islam pitched for the deal to Kumpulan Gatri Berhad, on the same day that we pitched, CIMB was there pitching for the same deal. Not Islamic, but trying to give them a fundraising option, conventional bond and things like that. The one that was pitching on behalf of CIMB was Datuk Sri Nazir. The one pitching on behalf of Bank Islam was me, an officer in Bank Islam Labuan Limited, against the CEO of CIMB, the largest merchant bank in the country at that time. So we passed each other at the corridor. Of course, Bank Islam won. And for the first time in CIMB's history, they lost a deal with Gatri. They had never ever lost a deal with Gatri until that time. Okay, when I completed the Gatri deal, naturally, CIMB being CIMB, headhunted me lah. Since this guy beat them at getting the mandate, so might as well just hire the guy and get rid of the competition. Okay, so